My name is Summer Shen, and my life was shaped by a prophecy I didn't choose. Born into a modest family in a small town, I grew up caring for my ailing parents, their frail hands clutching mine through endless nights of worry. My father, a carpenter, and my mother, a seamstress, taught me kindness above all, but their early deaths left me orphaned at 16. I became a schoolteacher, pouring my heart into children's laughter, hoping to mend the ache of loss. Yet, a shadow loomed over me as a child, a fortune teller's words that my marriage to the Grant family would secure their century-long prosperity. The Grants, a dynasty of wealth and power, were strangers to me, but the prophecy clung like damp fog, whispered by my uncle, who saw a chance to climb their ranks in it. At 22, I stood at a crossroads. My uncle, a cunning man with a merchant's smile, pressed me to fulfill the prophecy. He urged Summer, "The Grants need you," his eyes glinting with ambition. Their legacy depends on this union. Naive and eager to honor my parents' selflessness, I agreed, believing my sacrifice could bring peace to a family I'd never met. The Grants offered me a choice among their 3 sons: Andrew, the eldest, with his polished charm, Dylan, the brooding scholar, and Nathan, the reckless dreamer. Andrew's gentle words and warm gaze won me over. I saw in him a future, a partner. How wrong I was. Our wedding was a spectacle of opulence, the Grant estate draped in silk and gold. I walked the aisle in a gown stitched with dreams, my heart alight with hope. But that night, as candles flickered in our bridal chamber, Andrew's mask fell. His eyes, once soft, turned cold as stone. "You're not the true lady of this house," he spat, shoving me toward the door. Before I could scream, Dylan and Nathan burst in, their faces twisted with contempt. "Emily is the one we love," Dylan growled. Emily, the Grants' adopted daughter, raised as their own since she was 7, was their obsession, a delicate girl with a serpent's heart. What followed was a nightmare. The brothers took turns lashing out, their words like whips. "You stole Emily's place," Nathan sneered, his laughter cruel. They bound me to the bed, their hands bruising my wrists, while Emily watched, her smile a blade. "You thought you could be one of us?" she whispered, leaning close. "This family is mine." I pleaded, my voice hoarse, but their hatred drowned me. They called me a gold digger, a fraud, unworthy of their name. My wedding dress, torn and stained, became my shroud. As my strength faded, the door crashed open. Jason Grant, the family patriarch, stormed in, his face a horror mask. He fought off his sons, cradling me as blood seeped from my wounds. Jason, 40 but youthful, with sharp features and eyes heavy with guilt, knelt beside me. His hands trembled as he held me, his voice breaking. "Summer, I'm sorry. This was a trap, your uncle's scheme to bind you to us for his gain. The prophecy was twisted, a lie to lure you." Tears streaked his face, a father betrayed by his blood. "If there's a next life, stay far from the Grants. Live free." His words pierced my fading heart. The prophecy, meant to bring peace, had birthed only pain. As my vision dimmed, I saw Emily's smirk, the brothers' indifference, and Jason's anguish. Death claimed me, but not my resolve. In that final moment, a spark ignited. The prophecy, though corrupted, held truth. My union with the Grants was fated, but not as a victim. My soul, forged in betrayal, yearned for justice. The darkness wasn't the end, it was the beginning. I would return, not as the naive girl who trusted too easily, but as a force to dismantle the Grants' cruelty. Emily's laughter echoed in my mind, a challenge I'd answer. Andrew's betrayal, Dylan's venom, Nathan's cowardice, they'd face me again. And Jason, the only light in that hell, would be my ally. The prophecy wasn't finished with me, nor was I with them. I awoke with a gasp, my heart pounding as if I'd been pulled from a grave. The familiar scent of chamomile tea and worn books filled my small bedroom, starkly contrasting the blood-soaked bridal chamber of my past life. I was 22 again, 6 months before my doomed wedding to Andrew Grant. The mirror reflected a face unmarred by scars, but my eyes carried the weight of betrayal. I was Summer Shen, reborn, and the memories of my death burned like embers in my soul. The prophecy that bound me to the Grants, my marriage to secure their century-long prosperity, had been a lie twisted by my uncle's greed. Yet its true meaning lingered, a riddle I was destined to unravel. My childhood had been one of sacrifice. Orphaned at 16 after my parents succumbed to illness, I'd worked tirelessly to become a school teacher, finding solace in shaping young minds. My modest home, filled with hand-me-down furniture and my mother's faded quilts, was a sanctuary of simplicity, but the prophecy whispered by a fortune teller when I was a girl had haunted me. "Your union with the Grants will bring peace," she'd said, her eyes distant. My uncle, ever the opportunist, saw it as a ticket to power, pushing me toward the Grants' gilded cage. In my past life, I'd been naive, trusting his promises and Andrew's charm. Now I saw the truth. Save for one, the Grants were a nest of vipers. The morning sun spilled through my window, and a knock rattled the door. My heart stilled. It was too soon, yet I knew who stood beyond. Jason Grant, the patriarch, had come just as he had 6 months before my death. I smoothed my simple cotton shift dress and opened the door. There he stood, 40 but youthful, his sharp jaw and steady eyes framed by a tailored coat. His presence was commanding, yet his gaze softened as it met mine, carrying a flicker of sorrow I hadn't noticed in my past life. "Summer Shen," he said, his voice low and measured. "May I speak with you?" I nodded, leading him to the worn sofa. My hands trembled, not from fear but from the weight of memory, his arms cradling me as I died, his tears falling as he begged forgiveness. "The Grant family seeks your hand," he began, "guided by a prophecy that your marriage will bring us peace. A spiritual master confirmed it, but the choice is yours. You can refuse, and no harm will come." His words were the same, but his tone carried a quiet urgency, as if he sensed the cost of my past acceptance. In my previous life, I'd agreed without hesitation, eager to please. Now, the sting of betrayal sharpened my resolve. I studied Jason, his features firm yet etched with lines of loss. He'd been widowed a decade ago, his wife taken in a tragic accident, leaving him to raise 3 sons and an adopted daughter, Emily. In my past life, only Jason had shown me kindness, rushing to save me from his son's cruelty. His burns were a testament to his sacrifice. I remembered his final words, "Your uncle's trap. Stay away from the Grants." The prophecy he'd hinted was corrupted, yet its core held truth. My union was fated, but not with Andrew, Dylan, or Nathan, vipers who'd torn me apart for Emily's sake. "Mr. Grant," I said, my voice steady despite the storm within. "Why me? Why does this prophecy point to a nobody like me?" Jason's brow furrowed, surprised by my question. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "The spiritual master spoke of a soul bound to our lineage, one whose heart could heal or break us. Your name emerged in visions, Summer. I don't fully understand, but I trust the signs." His honesty disarmed me. In my past life, I'd never questioned the prophecy's mechanics, blinded by duty. Now, I saw it as a double-edged sword, my chance for justice. The memories surged. Andrew's cold betrayal, Dylan's sneers, Nathan's laughter, and Emily's venomous smile as they bound me, humiliated me, and left me to die. My fists clenched, nails biting my palms. I wouldn't be their victim again. The prophecy's true purpose dawned on me, not to serve the Grants' greed, but to restore their honor through me. I was no longer the naive girl who'd trusted too easily. Rebirth had forged me into something sharper, a blade honed by pain. I'd enter their world, but on my terms, dismantling their cruelty from within. I met Jason's gaze, my smile bitter yet resolute. "I need time to think," I said, buying a moment to study my plan. He nodded, rising. "Take all the time you need. This is your life, Summer." As he turned to leave, his coat brushed a photo frame on my table, a faded picture of my parents, their smiles eternal. My heart ached. They'd taught me to give, but now I'd take vengeance, power, and the future I deserved. Jason paused at the door, his eyes searching mine. "Whatever you choose, I wish you well." His sincerity stirred something in me, a flicker of trust amidst my rage. Alone, I sank onto the sofa, the prophecy's weight pressing down. It wasn't just about peace for the Grants, but about rewriting my fate. Emily's smirk, the brother's cruelty, my uncle's lies, they'd all answer to me. And Jason, the only Grant who'd mourned me, would be my ally. I didn't know how, but I'd bend the prophecy to my will. The girl who'd died in that bridal chamber was gone. In her place stood Summer Shen, reborn with purpose, ready to claim the Grants' legacy and burn their sins to ash. The air in my modest living room grew heavy as Jason Grant sat across from me, his offer lingering like a storm cloud. My reborn heart thrummed with purpose. Each beat was a vow to undo the horrors of my past life. At 22, I was no longer the naive schoolteacher who'd trusted my uncle's schemes or Andrew's honeyed lies. The prophecy, my marriage to secure the Grant family's century-long prosperity, had been a trap, but its true power lay in my hands now. Jason's steady gaze, tinged with sorrow, anchored me. He was the only Grant who'd mourned me, his arms my last refuge as I bled out in that cursed bridal chamber. Today, I'd rewrite our fates. Jason leaned forward, his tailored coat creasing slightly. At 40, he carried a youthful vigor, his sharp jaw and piercing eyes softened by a decade of grief. His wife's death had left him a widower, raising 3 sons and an adopted daughter, Emily, alone. In my past life, his kindness had been a fleeting light, burned arms and tearful apologies as I died. "Summer," he said, his voice low, "you don't have to decide now. The prophecy is a burden, not a chain. Refuse, and I'll ensure your safety." His sincerity pierced me, starkly contrasting the venom of his sons and Emily. I rose, pacing to the window where sunlight spilled over my mother's faded quilts. My childhood flashed before me, nursing my parents, teaching children, and believing in goodness. That girl had died with my past life, replaced by a woman forged in betrayal. Andrew's cold smirk, Dylan's sneers, Nathan's laughter, Emily's whispered taunts, they fueled my resolve. The prophecy wasn't just about peace, it was a weapon to dismantle their cruelty. But I needed an ally, someone to wield it with me. Jason, the patriarch, was that man, not his sons who'd shattered me for Emily's sake. Turning, I faced him, my voice steady. "Jason, I'll marry into the Grants." His eyes widened, hope flickering, but I raised a hand. "Not your sons, they're vipers, unworthy of your name." I stepped closer, heart racing. "I choose you." The words hung like thunder. Jason froze, his breath catching. "Summer, I'm too old for you," he protested, rising, his hands clenched. "I'm twice your age and a father to sons near your age. You deserve youth, not my burdens." His refusal was laced with pain, not pride, and I saw the man who'd cradled me begging for forgiveness. I closed the distance, pressing a finger to his lips, silencing his doubts. "You're the only decent man in that family. In my past life," I caught myself, the truth of my rebirth nearly slipping. "I've seen what your sons are. Andrew's charm is a mask, Dylan's intellect a blade, Nathan's dreams a lie. Emily's their poison and they drink it gladly. But you, Jason, you're different. I trust you." My words, laced with conviction, stirred something in him. His eyes searched mine, grappling with duty and desire. He stepped back, running a hand through his dark hair. "This isn't a game, Summer. Marriage is a lifelong bond. The prophecy speaks of peace, but tying yourself to me, a man scarred by loss, could mean sacrifice." His vulnerability disarmed me. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through sickness. Love wasn't youth, it was strength. "Sacrifice?" I said softly. "I've already lost everything once. I choose you because you're worth it." Our eyes locked, and the world shrank to us for a moment, 2 souls bound by pain, reaching for redemption. Jason's shoulders sagged, his resolve wavering. For the family's future, for the prophecy. He knelt, taking my hand, his grip firm yet gentle. "I, Jason Grant, swear this oath. I will marry you, Summer Shen, and entrust the Grant legacy to you. You'll hold our wealth, our name. If I betray you, may lightning strike me dead." His vow, solemn as a prayer, sent a shiver through me. The prophecy's weight settled. My union with Jason would fulfill it, not through his son's greed, but through our alliance, cleansing the Grant's rot. I nodded, but my mind raced. Revenge burned in me, and I needed control. "One condition," I said, my voice sharp. "Our engagement stays secret. Your sons and Emily mustn't know until I'm ready." Jason's brow furrowed, but he saw the steel in my eyes. "Why?" he asked. I smiled, cold and calculated. "They owe me a debt from a life you can't imagine. I'll make them pay double." My words hinted at my rebirth, but I held back the truth. Jason's gaze darkened, sensing my resolve, yet he nodded as you wished. He stood, towering yet tender, and for a moment I saw the man he'd been before loss, a fierce protector, now rekindled. "Summer," he said, softer now, "whatever drives you, I'll stand by you." But know this, I'm not just a patriarch. I'm a man who's forgotten how to hope. You're stirring that in me. His confession, raw and unguarded, warmed me. I touched his arm, a silent promise. Then let's hope together. As he left, the door clicking shut, I sank onto the sofa, my heart a battlefield of rage and possibility. The prophecy was mine to shape, and Jason was my shield. Andrew, Dylan, Nathan, Emily, they'd face a summer reborn, not the girl they'd broken. The Grant estate awaited a den of wolves I'd tame. I'd turn their legacy to ash and build it anew with Jason at my side. The game had begun, and I played to win. 2 days after my bold proposal, I stood before the Grant estate, its iron gates looming like the jaws of a beast. My heart thundered, not with fear, but with the cold fire of purpose. Reborn at 22, I carried the scars of my past life. Andrew's betrayal, Dylan's sneers, Nathan's cruelty, Emily's venom. The prophecy that bound me to the Grants, meant to bring them peace, had been twisted by my uncle's greed, but I'd seized its true power. Marrying Jason, the patriarch, was my key to dismantling their legacy of malice. Our secret engagement was my shield, and today, I'd step into their den to begin my revenge. The estate sprawled before me, a fortress of marble and glass, its opulence masking the rot within. I clutched my simple suitcase, a schoolteacher's wardrobe stark against the grandeur. Jason had offered to send a car, but I'd insisted on arriving alone, needing to face this moment on my terms. The memory of my past life's wedding night, bound, humiliated, and broken by the Grant brothers for Emily's sake, fueled my resolve. I wasn't that naive girl anymore. I was Summer Shen, reborn to burn their world down. The front door swung open and Andrew Grant stepped out, a cigar dangling between his fingers. At 26, he was all sharp angles and practiced charm, but his eyes glinted with malice, a far cry from the gentle facade he'd worn in my past life to lure me. Smoke curled around him as he raised an eyebrow, his smirk a blade. "Summer Shen," he drawled, "the prophecy's chosen one. Welcome to hell." His words dripped with mockery, but I met his gaze, unflinching. "Hell?" I replied, my voice ice. "I've been there. You sent me." His smirk faltered, a flicker of unease crossing his face. I brushed past him, entering the grand foyer where chandeliers gleamed like frozen tears. The air was thick with tension, the prophecy's weight pressing down. In my past life, I'd been blind to Andrew's cruelty until it was too late. Now I saw every crack in his mask, the way his fingers tightened on the cigar, the nervous dart of his eyes. He was no king here, just a pawn in my game. That night, I settled into my assigned room, its silk curtains and polished wood a mockery of comfort. Sleep eluded me, the memories of my past life too vivid. Then at 3 a.m., the acrid scent of smoke jolted me awake. Flames licked the curtains, a mirror of the fire Andrew had set in my past life to terrify me. Back then, I'd cowered, clutching my pillow as Jason rescued me, his arms burned. This time I was ready. I'd hidden a fire extinguisher under the bed, a precaution born of memory. With steady hands, I doused the flames, the hiss of foam drowning out the crackle of fire. The door burst open and the Grant family rushed in, Dylan, Nathan, Emily, and Brooke, their adopted sister. Andrew stood at the forefront, his surprise betraying him. He'd expected me to scream, to break. Instead, I faced him, extinguisher in hand, my voice cutting through the chaos. "Nice try, Andrew. Did you think I'd burn so easily?" His jaw tightened, and he leaned close, his whisper venomous. "Choose me as your husband, Summer, and I'll kill you. Emily is the faithful Mrs. Grant." His words echoed my past life, but they no longer held power. I swung my hand, the slap cracking across his face. The room stilled, gasps echoing. "You think I want you?" I sneered. "Take your precious Emily and crawl away. This family's mine now." Andrew clutched his cheek, stunned, as Brooke shrieked, "You filthy nobody! How dare you touch my brother?" Emily stepped forward, her voice trembling with false concern. "Summer, let's talk calmly. You're new here." I cut her off, my gaze icy. "Save it, Emily. I see you." Nathan, ever the peacemaker, mumbled, "Maybe an apology." I laughed, sharp and cold. "You set my room ablaze, and I should apologize? Speak again and I'll pick you as my husband, then make your life hell." The siblings froze, their bravado crumbling. Footsteps thundered, and Jason appeared, his shirt misbuttoned, a faint bruise on his wrist. The door was locked from outside, he said, his voice tight. I had to find the key. His eyes locked on Andrew, fury blazing. Without a word, he slapped his son, the sound reverberating. You decide who's worthy of this family, he growled. One more stunt, and you're all out. Turning to me, his gaze softened, but I saw the strain, his love for his sons warring with his duty to me. I seized the moment, my voice calm but commanding. Uncle, kids need discipline. From now on, I'll teach them manners. Jason's lips twitched, a spark of admiration in his eyes. Thank you, Summer, he said, assigning me a new room. As we walked away, he murmured, You're stronger than I expected. I touched his arm, a fleeting gesture. I have to be. Our shared glance held a promise. Our alliance, bound by the prophecy, was more than strategy. It was trust, fragile but growing. Alone in my new room, I stood at the window, the estate's lights glittering like a predator's eyes. The prophecy wasn't just about peace. It was my mandate to purge the Grant's sins. Andrew's fire had failed, but this was only the beginning. Emily's schemes, the brothers' greed, they'd face me one by one. I'd turn their legacy into my weapon with Jason at my side. The lion's den was mine to conquer, and I'd show no mercy. The Grant estate's grand foyer echoed with the aftermath of my slap, Andrew's cheek red and his pride shattered. My reborn resolve burned brighter than the flames I'd just extinguished. At 22, I was no longer the naive schoolteacher who'd crumbled under the Grant brothers' cruelty in my past life. The prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, was my weapon now, and my secret engagement to Jason, the patriarch, was its edge. I'd entered their den to dismantle their malice, and tonight, I'd stake my claim as their reckoning. Andrew's eyes blazed with disbelief, his cigar discarded on the marble floor. Do you dare hit me? He snarled, stepping forward. But I held my ground, the fire extinguisher still in hand. The memory of my past life, his cold betrayal, handing me to Dylan and Nathan to humiliate me for Emily's sake, fueled my defiance. Try me, I said, my voice ablade. You're not the king here, Andrew. Not anymore. The other siblings crowded behind him, their faces a mix of shock and fury. Brooke, their adopted sister, lunged forward, her voice shrill. You filthy nobody! My brother's the eldest Grant. Who are you to touch him? I turned my gaze on her, cold and unyielding. I'm the one your family needs, Brooke. The prophecy chose me, not you. Her mouth snapped shut, the weight of those words silencing her. Emily, ever the manipulator, stepped forward, her delicate features trembling with feigned concern. Summer, please, let's talk calmly. You've just arrived, and starting like this. I cut her off, my eyes narrowing. Save your tears, Emily. I see through you. Her sweet facade had hidden a serpent's heart in my past life, orchestrating my downfall with sabotaged dresses and whispered lies. Now I'd match her cunning. Nathan, the youngest, shuffled forward, his boyish charm a poor mask for his cowardice. Maybe an apology could smooth things over, he mumbled, avoiding my gaze. I laughed, the sound sharp and cutting through the tension. An apology? You set my room on fire, and I'm the one who should grovel. Listen closely, Nathan. I stepped forward, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Speak again, and I'll choose you as my husband. Then make every day of your life a living hell. Does anyone else want to try me? The siblings froze, their bravado crumbling under my threat. The prophecy gave me power, and I wielded it like a whip. Heavy footsteps broke the silence, and Jason Grant appeared, commanding the room. His shirt was misbuttoned, and a faint bruise on his wrist betrayed his struggle to reach me. The door to her room was locked from the outside, he said, his voice tight and fury. I had to break it down. His eyes locked on Andrew, and without warning he slapped his son, the crack reverberating. Do you decide who's worthy of this family? He growled, his tone icy. One more act like this, and you're all out of this house, prophecy or not. The siblings recoiled, their fear palpable. Jason turned to me, his gaze softening, though strain lingered in his eyes. In my past life, he'd been my only savior, burned and weeping as I died. I saw the war within him, love for his sons clashing with his duty to me, to the prophecy. I seized the moment, my voice calm but laced with authority. Uncle, I said, the title is a deliberate nod to our secret. Kids who act out need discipline. From now on, I'll take their mother's role and teach them manners. The words landed like a gauntlet, a bold claim to power in this fractured family. Brooke gasped, Emily paled, and the brothers exchanged uneasy glances. Jason's lips twitched, a spark of admiration breaking through his anger. "Thank you, Summer," he said, his voice steady. "You've been through enough tonight. I'll have a new room prepared." As the siblings dispersed, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my ear. "You're fearless," he murmured, "but be careful. They're cornered animals now." I met his gaze, my hand brushing his arm, a fleeting touch that spoke volumes. "I'm not alone, am I?" His nod was subtle, but his eyes held a promise. Our alliance was more than strategy. It was a shared fire. The plush bed and silk drapes in my new room felt like a cage, but I stood at the window, gazing at the estate's glittering lights. The prophecy wasn't just about peace. It was my mandate to purge the Grant's sins. Andrew's fire had been a test, and I'd passed, but Emily's schemes and the brothers' greed loomed larger. Jason's support was my anchor, yet his confession in my home echoed. His hope, stirred by me, was fragile. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through hardship. With Jason, I'd build something more substantial than vengeance, a bond to heal us both. The night stretched on, and I mapped my next moves. Emily's false tears, Brooke's rage, the brothers' cowardice, they'd face a Summer reborn, not the girl they'd broken. The prophecy had brought me here, but I'd shape its end. With Jason's vow and my resolve, the Grant legacy would bend to me. The lion's den was dangerous, but I was no prey. I was the hunter, and my hunt had just begun. The morning after the fire, the Grant estate buzzed with a brittle calm, its marble halls masking the venom beneath. At 22, reborn with the scars of my past life, I navigated this den of wolves with cold precision. The prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, had been twisted by my uncle's greed, but I'd claimed its power through my secret engagement to Jason, the patriarch. Andrew's failed arson had only sharpened my resolve. Now I sensed a darker scheme brewing and was ready to turn it against my enemies. I sat in my new room, its silk curtains a stark contrast to my modest roots as a schoolteacher. The memory of my past life, bound and humiliated by Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan for Emily's amusement, burned in my chest. Emily, the adopted daughter, had orchestrated my downfall with cunning precision. A slit bathrobe and a sabotaged wedding dress, all to paint me as unworthy. In my naivety, I'd called her sister. Now I saw her for what she was, a serpent coiled to strike. The prophecy wasn't just my mandate to bring peace, it was my license to expose her and the brothers' rot. A soft knock broke my thoughts. Daisy, a weathered servant with kind eyes, slipped inside, her hands wringing nervously. She'd been my only friend in my past life, offering me tea and quiet comfort until Emily had her dismissed on a false pretext. This time, I'd acted swiftly, convincing Jason to double her salary and secure a job for her son. "Miss Summer," she whispered, glancing at the door, "I overheard something awful. Miss Emily and the young masters, they're planning to kidnap you to ruin your reputation so you'll never marry into the family." My blood ran cold, but a grim smile curved my lips. It was the same plot from my past life, executed on my wedding night to disgrace me before the Grants' elite. Emily had hired thugs to assault me, filming it to spread online, while the brothers rescued me to cement my shame. The memory of that night, Emily's whisper, "Enjoy hell, Summer," ignited my fury. "Who's leading it?" I asked, my voice steady. Daisy's eyes darted nervously. "Miss Emily." She was studying with Master Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan. "They're hiring men to hurt you, then leak it to the press." I leaned back, my mind racing. The prophecy had brought me here not to serve the Grants, but to purge their sins. Emily's plan was her undoing. I'd let her weave her web, then trap her in it. "Thank you, Daisy," I said, pressing a hand to hers. "Keep this between us. I'll handle it." She nodded, relief softening her face. "You're different, Miss Summer. Stronger. I'll stand by you." Her loyalty warmed me, a reminder of the kindness I'd once lived for. I'd protect her as she protected me. Alone, I paced, plotting my counterstrike. In my past life, I'd been blind, stumbling into Emily's traps. Now I saw every move, her feigned innocence, the brothers' greed, their blind devotion to her. Andrew's fire had been a warning shot. This kidnapping was their actual assault. But I wasn't their prey anymore. I'd turned their scheme into a spectacle, exposing their cruelty to Jason and the world. The prophecy's true meaning crystallized. Peace would come through justice, and I was its instrument. I found Jason in his study, surrounded by leather-bound books and the faint scent of cedar. At 40, he was a pillar of strength, yet his eyes held quiet grief, his wife's loss, his son's failures. Our engagement, still secret, bound us in purpose, but I felt a deeper pull, a trust growing between us. "Summer," he said, rising, concern etching his features. "You're pale. Is something wrong?" I hesitated, the weight of Daisy's warning pressing down. I'd never confided in him in my past life, fearing disbelief. Now, I needed his strength. "Jason," I began, my voice low, "I needed to tell you something, but you must trust me." His brow furrowed, but he nodded, gesturing to a chair. I sat, my hands clasped tightly. "Emily and your sons are planning something cruel. I can't say more yet, but I'm ready for them. Will you back me when the time comes?" His eyes searched mine, a storm of emotions, doubt, loyalty, hope. He said softly that you're asking me to stand against my blood, but I swore an oath to you, Summer. If they're guilty, I'll act. Just be careful. His words, laced with vulnerability, stirred me. I touched his hand, a fleeting gesture. "I'm not alone, Jason. You're with me." His fingers tightened briefly around mine, a silent vow. "Always," he murmured. At that moment, I saw the man who'd wept as I died, his burns a testament to his care. Our bond, forged in the prophecy's fire, was more than strategy, a shared wound, healing through trust. I left his study, my heart steadier, knowing he'd be my shield when the storm broke. Back in my room, I stared at the estate's sprawling grounds, the lights glinting like a predator's eyes. Emily's plot mirrors my past life, but I held the script this time. I'd let her think me vulnerable, draw her in, then strike. The brothers' greed, Brooke's rage, Emily's cunning, they'd all fall. The prophecy had made me their savior, but I'd be their judge. With Daisy's loyalty and Jason's vow, I was ready. The trap was set, and I'd make them regret crossing Summer Shen. The Grant Estate's opulent facade hid a storm, and I, Summer Shen, was its architect. Reborn at 22, I carried the wounds of my past life. Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan's cruelty, Emily's venomous schemes. The prophecy, decreeing my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, had been warped by my uncle's greed, but I'd seized its true purpose through my secret engagement to Jason, the patriarch. Daisy's warning of Emily's kidnapping plot echoed my past life's horrors, but this time, I was no victim. I'd turn their trap into their downfall, exposing their rot to Jason and fulfilling the prophecy's call for justice. Emily approached me at breakfast, her smile as sweet as poison. "Summer, let's have a girls' day at the new KTV lounge," she chirped, her eyes glinting with malice. "The boys can join us. It'll be fun." I mirrored her smile, my heart cold. In my past life, she'd drugged me on our wedding night, delivering me to thugs who humiliated me while she filmed it, all to ruin my reputation. Now I saw every move, her feigned warmth, the brothers' complicity. "Of course, little sis," I replied, my voice honeyed. "I wouldn't miss it." She handed me a can of lemon tea as we boarded a private van, her gesture casual but calculated. I recognized the faint chemical tang, drugged just as I'd expected. My pulse quickened, but my plan was set. Before sipping, I slipped my phone from my sleeve, dialed Jason, and muted my end, leaving the line open. Every word Emily spoke would reach him. I took a small sip, enough to feign dizziness, and slumped against the seat. Emily's concern was a mask. "Summer, are you okay?" she cooed, guiding me into the KTV's private room. From the corner of my eye, I saw two men in black loitering outside, their presence chillingly familiar. As my vision blurred, Emily leaned close, her whisper venomous. "Film her face clearly," she instructed the thugs, unaware of the open line. "Make it degrading, let the world see she's unfit for the Grants." Her words, cruel and precise, mirrored my past life's torment. I fought to stay conscious, my body heavy but my will unbroken. The prophecy wasn't just about peace. It was my mandate to expose this evil, to cleanse the Grants through truth. I clung to Jason's promise to stand by me, and trusted he'd come. The door crashed open and Jason stormed in, a baseball bat gripped tightly. At 40, he was a force of righteous fury, his eyes blazing red behind his glasses. The first thug lunged, but Jason swung, the crack of breaking bones echoing as the man crumpled, blood spraying. The second thug froze, then bolted, but Jason's legs swept out, sending him crashing to the floor. "Touch her and you'll wish you were never born," he growled, his voice a primal roar. The gentle patriarch I'd known was gone, replaced by the fierce protector who'd burned for me in my past life. He dropped the bat, stripping off his blazer to drape over my trembling form. His arms lifted me, firm yet tender, and I buried my face in his chest, the scent of cedar grounding me. Emily, returning from the restroom, froze at the sight. "Dad, why are you here?" she stammered, eyes darting to me, searching for signs of violation. Jason's gaze was ice. "On your knees at the ancestral hall until sunrise," he ordered, not sparing her a glance. Her facade cracked, fear replacing her smugness as she realized her plan had failed. In the van back to the estate, Jason held me close, his hand stroking my hair. "You're safe now," he murmured, but his voice shook with suppressed rage. I looked up, and my voice was soft but firm. "I knew you'd come. I trusted you." His eyes met mine, a storm of guilt and resolve. "I heard every word she said," he admitted, his jaw tight. "I should have seen her cruelty sooner." I touched his hand, our fingers entwining. "We see it now together. Our bond, forged in the prophecy's fire, deepened, a partnership of vengeance and shared healing." At the estate, Jason carried me to a guest room, his touch careful as he set me on the bed. "Rest," he said, but I caught his sleeve. "Stay a moment." He sat, his hand still in mine. "In my past life, I began risking the truth. You saved me, but I didn't know why. Now I do. You're the prophecy's heart, Jason, not your son's, not Emily." His breath hitched, and he squeezed my hand. "You speak like you've lived twice," he said softly. "Whatever drives you, Summer, I'm with you. But I'm afraid of failing you." His vulnerability stirred me, and I smiled. "You won't. We're rewriting fate." As he left, I lay back, the prophecy's weight settling. Emily's scheme had backfired, her cruelty laid bare. The brothers, complicit in her plan, would face my wrath next. With Daisy's loyalty and Jason's strength, I held the upper hand. The Grant legacy was mine to reshape, and I'd carve justice from its bones. The trap had sprung, and I was the one who'd set it free. The hospital room's sterile quiet was a stark contrast to the chaos of the KTV lounge, where Jason had shattered Emily's kidnapping plot with a baseball bat. At 22, reborn with the scars of my past life, I lay in the bed, my body weak from the drugged tea, but my spirit ablaze. The prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, had been my uncle's trap, but I'd turned it into my weapon through my secret engagement to Jason, the patriarch. Emily's vile scheme, meant to ruin me, had instead exposed her cruelty, and now, the Grant family's rot-faced judgment. Jason sat by my bedside, his sharp features softened by worry, his hands clasped tightly. He was a pillar of strength at 40, yet his eyes betrayed a father's anguish. In my past life, he'd been my only savior, burned and weeping as I died. Now, our alliance, bound by the prophecy, was a lifeline. "Summer," he said, his voice hoarse, "why didn't you tell me Emily was plotting against you?" His question carried guilt, as if he'd failed me. I tugged his sleeve, my touch gentle. "I was afraid you wouldn't believe me," I admitted, my voice soft. "In the past, I trusted the wrong people." He turned away, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. "I was wrong," he rasped, his gaze returning to mine. I raised Emily as my own, but was blind to her malice. "Trust me now, Summer. I'll protect you." His vow, raw and fervent, warmed me. I nodded, squeezing his hand. "I do. We'll face them together." Our fingers lingered on a silent promise. The prophecy wasn't just about peace. It was about purging the Grant's sins, and Jason was its true heart, not his treacherous sons. The hospital door burst open, and Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan barged in, their faces a mix of defiance and unease. Andrew's eyes flickered to my IV, a hint of guilt quickly masked. "Dad," he began, "Emily's never suffered. The ancestral hall is freezing. How can she kneel there all night?" His plea for Emily, the adopted sister they adored, echoed my past life, where they'd chosen her over me, binding me for her amusement. Jason's voice cut through, dangerously soft. Did she suffer? He stood, towering over them. When Emily plotted Summer's kidnapping, did she care about her suffering? The brothers paled, their bravado crumbling. Jason's gaze hardened, his disappointment palpable. You've shamed this family, he said, his voice rising. Andrew, in high school, you hid razor blades and textbooks, scaring off tutors. Dylan, you cornered a classmate and nearly threw acid on her. I paid millions to silence it. Nathan, you gambled away $300 million in Macau and I covered your debts. He swept his eyes across them. Which of you is fit to lead the Grants? Tell me. The room fell silent, their faces ashen under his judgment. I watched, my heart steady. In my past life, I'd been powerless, a pawn in their games. The prophecy gave me authority, and I wielded it through Jason. He turned to me, his expression softening as if seeking my approval. Summer, he said, his voice firm, I've decided. The Grant family shares will transfer to your name, effective immediately. You'll choose the heir. The brothers gasped, their world unraveling. Andrew's face darkened, Dylan's fists clenched, and Nathan stammered, You're giving it to her? An outsider? Jason's eyes blazed. My wife, your mother, begged me to raise you with honor. She'd be ashamed of you now. His words struck like lightning, and I felt a pang for him, a father betrayed by his blood. I rose from the bed, ignoring the IV's tug, and stood beside him. Jason's right, I said, my voice clear. The prophecy chose me to save this family, not to serve your greed. Step out of line again and you'll lose everything. My words, laced with the prophecy's weight, silenced them. Andrew tried to protest. Dad, Emily was just... Jason's glare cut him off. Enough. She kneels for her crimes, and you'll answer for yours. He turned to me, his hand brushing mine. A fleeting anchor. Rest, Summer. I'll handle them. As the brothers slunk out, their defiance broken, I caught Jason's eye. You're giving me everything, I said softly. Why? He smiled, weary but resolute, because you're the only one who sees this family's truth. And because... He hesitated, his voice dropping. You've given me hope again. Alone, I sank back, the prophecy's purpose clearer than ever. Emily's fall was just the beginning. The brothers' greed would be next. Jason's trust and his vulnerability deepened our bond beyond vengeance. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through hardship. With Jason, I'd build something more substantial, a legacy of justice. The Grant estate loomed outside, its lights dimmer now. The prophecy had made me its instrument, and I'd carve peace from their chaos. Emily was down, but the war was far from over. The ancestral hall of the Grant estate was a cavern of shadows, its stone walls heavy with history and judgment. I stood at its center, my reborn heart pounding with the moment's weight. At 22, I carried the scars of my past life. Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan's cruelty, Emily's venomous betrayal. The prophecy decreeing my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace had been my uncle's trap, but I'd turned it into my sword through my secret engagement to Jason, the patriarch. Emily's failed kidnapping plot had exposed her malice, and now, in this sacred space, the truth of our shared pasts would unravel. Emily knelt before me, her knees raw against the stone, her bangs plastered with sweat. The brothers, desperate to secure the inheritance Jason had promised me, had forced her to grovel. Sister Summer, I was wrong, she sobbed, her forehead striking the floor 3 times, each thud a testament to her defeat. Andrew, Dylan, and Nathan bickered over who'd earned my favor, their greed closing their eyes to her humiliation. I watched, my gaze cold. In my past life, Emily's schemes, slit bathrobes, sabotaged dresses, had broken me. Her fall was my triumph, but the prophecy demanded more than her tears. Emily's eyes flashed with defiance, her voice cracking as she rose. You're loving this, aren't you? Watching them fight for you? She pointed at Jason, who stood beside me, his presence a quiet storm. I only apologized because of him. If you've got guts, Summer, marry him. Her taunt was a desperate jab, but it ignited a spark. Andrew, his face contorted, shouted, Are you reborn or something? The hall froze, the air turning eerie. Dylan and Nathan's eyes snapped to their brother, alarm flickering. Emily trembled, her fear betraying her secret. Jason's hand tightened on mine, his breath hitching. I met his gaze, seeing the truth he'd hidden. "You remember," I whispered, my voice steady. He nodded, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "I do," he said, loud enough for all to hear. "In our past life, I failed you, Summer. I failed my sons, Emily, and this family. I died at their hands, betrayed by my blood." His admission shattered the silence, and I felt the prophecy's weight shift. It wasn't just my rebirth. It was ours, a shared chance to rewrite fate. Andrew gave a bitter laugh, stepping forward. "Yeah, we remember. After Summer died, we turned on each other. Emily's lies, our greed, it tore us apart. I killed Dylan in a fit of rage. Nathan betrayed me, and we all hunted you, Dad." His voice dripped with contempt. "But we're reborn, too. This time, the Grant legacy stays with our blood, not her." Dylan and Nathan nodded, their eyes gleaming with cruelty. Emily shrieked, "You think you've won, Summer? We'll destroy you again." I stood unflinching, the prophecy's purpose clear. Our rebirths weren't a gift, but a trial, a chance to face our past sins. In my past life, I'd been naive, trusting Andrew's charm, Emily's sisterhood. Now I saw their true faces, monsters reborn, unchanged. But Jason was different. His hand in mine was an anchor, his rebirth a mirror of my own. "You've learned nothing," I said, my voice cutting through their threats. "The prophecy chose me to cleanse this family, not to fuel your greed. You're not Grants, you're parasites." Jason stepped forward, his voice low but lethal. "You speak of legacy, but you've defiled it. Andrew, you set Summer's room ablaze. Dylan, you plotted her ruin. Nathan, you stood by. Emily, you orchestrated it all." He turned to me, his eyes softening. "Summer, I saw my failure in that past life, watching you die, unable to save you. This time, I choose you." His words, raw with conviction, stirred me. Our bond, forged in shared pain, was the prophecy's true heart, a union to heal the Grant's wounds. The brothers lunged, their faces twisted with rage. "You can't give her everything," Dylan roared. Nathan shoved forward. "She's nothing." Emily's laughter turned manic. "Kill them both!" But I felt no fear, only resolve. The rebirth revelation had bared their souls, and they were empty. I squeezed Jason's hand, whispering, "We end this together." He nodded, his gaze fierce yet tender. "For you, for us." In that moment, I saw our future, vengeance and redemption. The prophecy had bound us all, reborn to face our pasts. Emily and the brothers had chosen destruction. Jason and I decided justice. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through loss. With Jason, I'd build something more substantial, a legacy of truth. The hall's shadows seemed to pulse, the prophecy alive in our defiance. The siblings' threats were hollow. They'd face the consequences of their reborn sins. The war was ours to win, and I was ready. The ancestral hall of the Grant estate pulsed with raw tension, its stone walls bearing witness to a reckoning. At 22, reborn with the scars of my past life, I stood beside Jason, our hands entwined, facing the venomous glares of Andrew, Dylan, Nathan, and Emily. The prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, had been my uncle's trap, but I'd forged it into my weapon through our secret engagement. The revelation that we were all reborn, me, Jason, and the siblings, had bared their unchanged cruelty, but it also unveiled the depth of my bond with Jason. Now, I'd claim our future, defying their chaos with love. Emily's forced apology still echoed, her knees bruised from kneeling, a hollow victory coerced by the brothers' greed for the inheritance I now controlled. Their rebirth had taught them nothing. Andrew's fire, Dylan's plots, Nathan's cowardice, and Emily's malice mirrored their past life's sins. But Jason's confession, his memory of failing me, dying at his son's hands, had shifted everything. The prophecy wasn't just my mandate to purge the Grant's rot. It was our shared redemption, a chance to rewrite fate through our union. I stepped forward, my voice ringing clear. "Enough games," I declared, turning to the siblings. "Emily's apology means nothing. You fight for power, but I've chosen my path." I turned to Jason, my heart steady despite the storm. Rising on my toes, I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him, a bold, unwavering act. His eyes widened, surprise melting into warmth as he closed them, pulling me close. The kiss was a declaration. carrying the weight of my past life's pain, my reborn resolve, and the trust we'd built. The hall fell silent, the siblings' gasps a distant hum. Pulling back, I met Jason's gaze, his tenderness a beacon. I chose Jason Grant. I announced, my voice firm. He's my future, the prophecy's true heart. The brothers scoffed, their disbelief palpable. Andrew snorted. You're joking. Pick one of us. Stop this farce. Dylan's eyes narrowed. Playing hard to get won't work. Nathan smirked. Come on, Summer, let's talk marriage. Their smugness mirrored my past life, where they treated me like a toy. Now, they were fools, blind to the shift in power. Jason's hand tightened on mine, his voice low but resonant. Summer's choice is final. I'll marry her with the grandest wedding this family has ever seen, and she'll hold our legacy. His words, laced with reverence, stirred me. In my past life, I'd loved the wrong man, Andrew's charm, a lie that led to my ruin. Now Jason's sincerity was my anchor. I smiled, teasing. I had better start planning then. His low chuckle broke the tension, a shared moment amidst the chaos. Emily's manic laughter cut through. You're all clowns! Summer, a gold digger for an older man. Her reborn spite was unchanged, but her words lacked bite. Andrew lunged forward. You think you've won? The Grant name stays with us! Dylan and Nathan echoed his rage, their reborn memories fueling their defiance. The revelation had fractured their unity, each recalling the past life's betrayals, their mutual destruction after my death. Yet they clung to greed, blind to the prophecy's truth. Jason stepped in front of me, his presence a shield. You've defiled this family, he said, his voice steel. Summer's not just my choice, she's the prophecy's. I remember our past life, my failure to stop you. This time you'll face consequences. His admission, raw and resolute, deepened our bond. I touched his arm, whispering, We're stronger together. He nodded, his eyes softening, always. In the quiet that followed, Jason's study flashed in my mind, our earlier moment, his confession of hope rekindled by me. After my wife died, he'd said, I forgot how to feel. You've changed that, Summer, I'd teased. Our age gap won't matter in 20 years. His warmth had met mine, a promise beyond vengeance. Now, in the hall, that promise held firm. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through loss. I'd build a legacy of truth, not just justice, with Jason. The siblings' threats grew frantic. We'll take it back, Nathan shouted. Emily's eyes gleamed with madness. You'll fall. But their reborn chaos was their weakness. The prophecy had given us all a second chance, but they'd squandered theirs. I leaned into Jason, my voice soft. They're lost. Let's show them what we've found. He stroked my hair, his touch a vow, a life worth fighting for. The hall's shadows seemed to pulse, the prophecy alive in our defiance. The siblings' reborn sins would be their undoing, but our love, forged in shared pain and purpose, was unstoppable. The Grant legacy was mine to shape. With Jason, I'd carve peace from their ruin. The war loomed, but in this moment, love held the line. The ancestral hall of the Grant estate vibrated with primal fury, its stone walls absorbing the echoes of betrayal. At 22, reborn with the wounds of my past life, I stood beside Jason, our hands clasped, facing the snarling wrath of Andrew, Dylan, Nathan, and Emily. The prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, had been my uncle's twisted lure, but I'd forged it into my blade through our engagement, now public. The revelation that we were all reborn had bared their unrepentant greed, and at this moment, the Grant legacy would be cleansed or destroyed. Andrew's eyes burned with reborn malice, his voice a growl. Do you think marrying Dad gives you the Grant name? We killed you both before. We'll do it again. Dylan and Nathan flanked him, their faces twisted with the same cruelty that had bound me in my past life. Emily, her knees still raw from her forced apology, shrieked, Kill them! If they're gone, the legacy's ours. Their reborn memories of tearing each other apart after my death, of murdering Jason, hadn't changed them. The prophecy's second chance was wasted on their venom. I felt no fear, only a cold, burning resolve. The prophecy wasn't just about peace. It was a trial, and they'd failed. I'd been naive in my past life, broken by their cruelty for Emily's sake. Now I was their judge. Jason stepped forward, shielding me, his voice steel. Do you dare threaten Summer on my land? Do you think this life lets you repeat your sins? His eyes, once heavy with a father's grief, now blazed with righteous fury. I remember our past, your betrayal, my death. This time I end it. The siblings lunged, their reborn greed blinding them to reason. Andrew swung a fist, Dylan grabbed a candelabrum, Nathan's eyes darted for an exit, and Emily's laughter was manic. But Jason was prepared. A sharp whistle cut the air and footsteps thundered. Over 20 black-clad bodyguards flooded the hall, their faces impassive as they sealed every exit. Daisy, my loyal ally, stepped forward, a feather duster wielded like a scepter, her eyes locked on Emily. The household staff followed their presence, a quiet rebellion against the siblings' tyranny. Andrew froze, his bravado crumbling. "You can't do this!" he roared, but 2 guards tackled him, his knees slamming into the stone. Dylan dropped the candelabrum, raising his hands, while Nathan fell to his knees, sobbing, "Dad, we're sorry. Please don't kill us." Emily, ever defiant, sashayed toward Jason, her voice a purr. "Daddy, I could marry you. Better than her." Jason slapped her hand away, his disgust palpable. "You're no daughter of mine," he said, his voice ice. He pulled a thick stack of documents from his coat, flinging them to the floor. "Arson, kidnapping, assault. Your crimes documented. This is enough to lock you away for life." His gaze swept the siblings, his disappointment a heavier blow than any fist. "From this day, you are no longer a Grant. These doors are closed to you forever." The guards moved, dragging them out. Emily's screams pierced the air. "I'm your daughter, you raised me." But Jason didn't flinch, his eyes filled with a father's broken dreams. As their cries faded, Jason turned to me, his face softening. "Summer, no one will hurt you again," he said, his voice gentle. I stepped into his arms, the warmth of his embrace grounding me. The prophecy had tested us all, but our reborn choices, his to protect, mine to fight, had prevailed. "You gave up your family for me," I murmured, my voice thick. He cupped my face, his thumbs brushing my cheeks. "I didn't give them up. They chose this. You're my family now." Our bond, forged in shared pain, was the prophecy's true fulfillment. In my past life, I'd loved Andrew, a mistake that ruined me. Now, Jason's love was my salvation. I thought of my parents and their enduring devotion through hardship. "We're building something new," I said, my voice steady, "a legacy of truth." He nodded, his eyes bright with hope. "With you, it's possible." Once a battlefield, the hall felt sacred, and our vow softened its shadows. The rebirth revelation had consequences. They'd face prison, their reborn sins, their chains. But for us, it was liberation. Jason's confession in the hospital, his fear of failing me, echoed in my mind. "You haven't failed," I'd told him. Now, I saw his strength, his choice to stand with me. The prophecy had brought us here not to serve the Grants' greed, but to rebuild their honor. With Daisy's loyalty and the staff's support, we'd forge a new path. As we left the hall, the estate's lights gleamed, no longer predatory but promising. The siblings were gone, their legacy stripped. The prophecy's trial was nearly complete, and I was its victor. With Jason, I'd turned the Grant name into a beacon, not a curse. The war was won, but our love, tested by chaos, would be our greatest triumph. Once a den of betrayal, the Grant estate stood bathed in the golden light of a new day. At 22, reborn with the scars of my past life, I, Summer Shen, had transformed the prophecy, my marriage to bring the Grants a century of peace, from my uncle's trap into a beacon of justice. My engagement to Jason, the patriarch, now celebrated, had purged the family's rot. Andrew, Dylan, Nathan, and Emily were banished to prison for their reborn sins. The ancestral hall's echoes had faded, replaced by a quiet hope. Today, our wedding would seal the prophecy's true purpose, and our love would heal the wounds of our past lives. The grand ballroom was a vision of white roses and silk, every detail reflecting Jason's vow for a ceremony to honor me. I stood before a mirror, my gown a cascade of lace, its simplicity a nod to my roots as a schoolteacher. My past life's horrors, Andrew's betrayal, Emily's sabotaged dress tearing on a stage, felt distant now. The prophecy, the spiritual master had said, required a soul to heal the Grant's lineage. I was that soul, not through the brothers' greed, but through Jason's heart. Our union, born of shared rebirth, was the peace foretold. Jason waited at the altar, his suit accentuating his youthful vigor at 40. His eyes, once heavy with a father's grief, sparkled with joy as I walked toward him. The guests, loyal staff like Daisy, who'd stood by me, watched in awe. Jason's K-pop dance, a surprise he'd practiced in secret, drew laughter, his fluid moves defying his age. I clapped, my heart swelling, though I teased, "Careful, you'll strain something." His grin was boyish, a glimpse of the man unburdened by loss. Our vows were heartfelt and straightforward. "I choose you in this life and any other," we said, sealing our bond. Later, in the quiet of our suite, Jason pulled me close, his cedar scent grounding me. "You've given me everything, Summer," he murmured. "After my wife died, I thought love was gone. You brought it back." I touched his cheek, my voice soft. "And you gave me the strength to face my past. We're whole because of each other." Our tender and sure kiss was a promise beyond the prophecy, a life built on trust. I thought of my parents, their love enduring through hardship. With Jason, I'd found that same resilience. 3 months later, I sat in our sunlit bedroom, a pregnancy test in hand. Jason knelt beside me, his ear pressed to my belly, his face comically serious. "I'm listening for divine whispers," he joked, but his eyes shone with wonder. I laughed, nearly swatting him with the test. "It's only been days." He lifted me gently onto the bed, tucking the blanket around me like I was porcelain. "Bird's nest soup or spicy noodles?" he asked, already planning. I pressed a hand to his lips, grinning. "Mr. Grant, you've done this before. Calm down." He kissed my forehead, his voice low. "This time it's with you. Every moment matters." Now a trusted friend, Daisy brought news of the siblings' fates, her smirk wicked. In prison, Andrew's arrogance earned him stolen meals. Dylan's schemes landed him in solitary. Nathan scrubbed toilets for petty hustles. And Emily, deluded, bragged of her Grant status while enduring daily beatings. Their reborn choices, greed over redemption, had sealed their downfall. The prophecy's trial had judged them, and they'd failed. Daisy peeled an apple, muttering, "Clinging to lies breaks you." I nodded, my heart light. Their suffering was justice, not vengeance. Jason emerged from his study, sunlight framing him like a halo. "The estate's thriving," he said, his voice warm. "Your ideas for the staff, the community, they're working." I smiled, rising to meet him. The prophecy's resolution was clear. Our union had restored the Grant's honor through wealth and integrity. The rebirth revelation had given us all a chance, but only we had chosen wisely. My past life's wounds, Emily's taunts, the brother's cruelty, had dissolved in Jason's love, a radiant light that healed every scar. Standing together, we looked at the estate's grounds, no longer a predator's lair, but a home. The prophecy had been fulfilled, not by my sacrifice, but by our defiance. I thought of caring for my parents and believing in goodness in my childhood. That girl lived on in me, tempered by rebirth's fire. With Jason, I'd built a legacy of truth, love, and hope. The future stretched before us, boundless and bright, our child its promise. As Jason's hand found mine, I knew that the dawn was ours, and no shadow could touch it.